And we are moving to next keynote, impact of big data analytics on decision-making in organizational project management, how to leverage big data analytics to enhance projects and PMO management via a well-established decision-making capability. For that, I would like to invite Dr. Laila Faridoon. She's a thought leader, public speaker, and author. She is specialized in business and digital consulting services with deep expertise in innovation, project, and corporate management with 20 years of experience. That's true, right?
Doesn't shine.
Okay, but I have more information about you. Laila is founder and CEO of Looking Forward Consultancy, specialized in business, projects, and digital management and transformation. Laila has a strong mix of technology and business skills. She is passionate about challenging the status quo, leveraging science and technology for the good of the humanity. In addition of being a big advocate for women in STEM through her different roles and endeavors, she has been chosen in 2019 as an ambassador of Goodwill by League of Arab Organization. She has authored a book, Looking Forward to the Bright Side, that is based on her own journey in life and gives you a guide on how to transform your life to the one that you want. Doctor, it's enormous pleasure to have you with us today. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. So, good morning, everyone. I'm so excited to be here today to talk about big data analytics. I can say that this is the most trending topic. Wherever I go now, I hear people talking about big data. We heard all our speakers today, they touched into big data. And since yesterday, actually, people come to me and tell me we are looking forward to know about big data. So I wish by end of today's presentation, you would walk away with some answer to your questions. Big data analytics, as I said, are very much trending nowadays. Why? Why do you think this happened? Why suddenly everyone is talking about big data analytics? I studied computer science 20 years ago when I did my bachelor degree, and AI was there. But at that time, no one talked about AI, only IT people talked about AI. So what do you think, what happened? It was a life. Power in terms of? Okay, amount of information, more power and computational capability. What else? Why do you think this is trending? Why do you think big data analytics became something everyone is talking about? Too much data. In my early days, if I go to the CEO or the senior management, I talk about AI, you know the answer would be what? Go talk to my CIO. Go talk to my IT director. Now, if you go to one of the CEOs and talk to them, even if they don't know, with all respect, they pretend they know, and they will start engaging in the conversation about AI and big data, right? So three main reasons I see as, or actually are seen as the most important factor that contributed to the evolution of the concept of big data analytics. Number one, as everyone here said, the amount or the volume of data. They say that 90% of information, of data words actually, was generated only last 2 years. Do you believe this? So that's one factor. The other factor is the processing power, the technology itself. At the early days, there were limited technology and very expensive that you could use to analyze data. Nowadays, it's affordable. Nowadays, you carry it in your smartphone. You don't need to go and spend a lot to be able to process data. So it became so affordable and at the cost, normal, like average cost. That's why that all contributed to the spread of what we know today by big data analytics. Before digging deep into this, let's understand the history. So The first time big data as a term was coined was in 1990. And that's where they started realizing the huge amount of data. And then, in 2001, an analyst called Doug Laney, he works in a consultancy called Meta Group. He created a definition of big data with the 3 V's. And that's simply volume, velocity, and variety. And then, 2005, Gartner, being as smart as they are, they noticed that this will be something big. So they decided to acquire Meta Group. Doug Laney became an employee, an analyst with Gartner, and they publicized it. So that's when the 3 V's became popular, and that's when everyone else started knowing about big data and the definition of big data. And then what happened? And then, a turning point, Hadoop. If you don't know Hadoop, Hadoop is simply a software. It's the most known software used for big data analytics. So it covers all the different stages, starting from collecting data, storing data, processing data, analyzing data, and providing results. So that was developed in 2006, and it's an open source. Based on this technology, based on this concept, many other software came alive. And then the revolution happened. 2011, the 4th Industrial Revolution. We witnessed the 4th Industrial Revolution, started in Germany. And the 4th Industrial Revolution witnessed also the emerging of the technologies, different technologies of the 4th Industrial Revolution, cloud computing, AI. And here where AI started becoming popular. There are many technology, many applications developed based on AI, machine learning, deep learning. All that became so popular that more and more data is generated, more and more processing is happening, and more insights. Going forward with that all contributed to what we know today as a big data analytic. So what is big data analytics? If you would ask me to give you a definition of big data analytics, so simply big data is a collection of different items. It's a collection of data, it's a collection of data, infrastructure, skills, policies, that all together could generate value. And this value, how does it work? By filtering, correlating, generating information and insight that you will use to enhance your business, simply by adding a business value. But how does that happen? In order for that to happen, it's very important to establish 3 main dimensions of the big data analytics. Big data analytics is not technology anymore. We're talking here about an organizational capability. Project management is an organizational capability. Big data analytics is another organizational capability. If you want to have the real benefits out of big data, you need to make sure that within your project, within your organization, you are establishing the 3 dimensions. And that's simply the tangible, like data, infrastructure, network, all the hardware. And then the human skills, managerial as well as technical. You cannot do without one of them. Do not assume if you have the perfect or the most talented data scientist that you're good in that. No. If your management does not understand the value of your big data, if your management, I will talk a lot about this, they do not know how to interpret the insights of your big data, then you're not going to get any benefit out of that. And then the third dimension is the intangible. And these are the most difficult one. These are the most, I would say, neglected one. So organizational culture, governance, policies, or the different organizational capabilities that need to be there. And we'll talk about it, why that need to be there. So big data analytics simply is one of the emerging technologies of the 4th Industrial Revolution, and we talked about why it became so popular. Now, we said big data at the end would generate a business value. How does that work? If I establish a 3 dimension, let's say that this organization is already established a 3 dimension, would it still be able to generate the benefits? Do you think so? So how does big data work? Big data simply would give you insight, as we said, right? Having 3 dimensions established, it would give you some insight. The insights will be used to simply help you generate a data-driven decision-making. And that will help you to make a decision based on insight to either generate a new revenue streams, to either generate a new service offering, enhance current services, enhance your efficiency, or even a new opportunity and revenue. So by having certain insights from big data analytic, now you can augment your decision-making, use that information and insight, make decision about the different factors we talked about, and then that will contribute to enhancing your organizational performance. So decision-making is very important here. Everything would go through the decision-making, and there where the real impact would happen. Eventually, that will enhance your performance. Now, it's very important, as I said earlier. So one main factor established the 3 dimensions of big data analytics. The second factor is you need to make sure that all the required other organizational capabilities, such as the decision-making, are well established. Let me ask you a question here. How do we decide? How do we make decision? What do you think? How a human make a decision? Fact and experience. What else? So some people make decision based on feelings. What else? How do we decide? True. So simply, how do we decide? We decide based on our cognitive ability, or what we call cognitive style. So there are different cognitive styles that different people have. So according to the science, there are 5 types of decision-making style. And what do I mean by cognitive style? Simply thinking style. How do we make a decision based on our own thinking style? And our thinking style goes back all the way to what? To the characteristic of that person, to the belief system, to the value of that person. Accordingly, a decision will be made. So there are 5 types of cognitive style or thinking style or decision-making style. The first one is rational, which you talked about here. So this person will make a decision based on fact, logically. Give me facts, accordingly, I can come up with a decision, easy. There's a person who's more intuitive, would make a decision based on their own gut feeling. No matter what information you give them, they will always go by their gut feeling. Even if you tell them, it's raining today, the forecast says it's raining, if they don't feel that, they won't believe it. It all goes by the gut feeling. You tell them, come to this conference, a very important conference. They tell you, something tells me, don't go. They will not listen to you. You tell them they are the main good speakers here. No, something tells me, don't go. So that's the intuitive people. And then there is another type that's called the avoidance. So this person doesn't make a decision, will always avoid making a decision. And there's the dependent type. This person raised entire life that someone else will make a decision for me. I don't have to make a decision. I don't know how to make a decision. And then the last one is the spontaneous. Depends, yeah? So take this back to the organization now. The decision maker, in order for that person to make a decision based on information that came from a machine, how would that person feel? You take insights to your manager, and that's an intuitive person. Do you think that person will believe the insight that came out from the machine? No, no matter what you do, you'll tell them, I have the best data scientist from MIT. They will tell you, no, we feel that this is wrong. No matter what you do, right? So you need to understand who's the decision maker at your organization. You as a project manager, what is your thinking style? How do you make decision? Your PMO manager, how do they make decision? Your stakeholders, how do they make decision? At the end, project management is about decision making, right? From one stage to another, you need to make a decision in order to move or not. You need to make a decision at different stages of the project management. So you as well understanding what is your decision-making style will make a big difference. Now, let's take all this back to the context of big data analytics. So if the decision maker, no matter what you do, is not a rational person, there will be a difficulty to adopt a data-driven decision-making. Accordingly, they will be very difficult to generate benefits of big data analytics. And then, so that's on a personal level. Now, add on top of that the organizational culture. And if you remember, we said one of the main items within the big data analytics is organizational culture. If your organization culture doesn't support decision-making, then regardless, you have big data or you don't have big data, you're not going to move forward with it, right? So if the organization doesn't empower teams to make decisions, you understand that in project, you create different teams. Within PMO deals with different teams. If those teams are not empowered to make decisions, if the culture doesn't support them, then you cannot move forward with that, right? And whatever data you generate, if the culture doesn't support it as well, risk-taking, for instance. If I'm a PMO manager and I decided today, based on the insight that I have from my big data analytics, that I'm gonna shut this project, that's it, it's not gonna work. If your organization doesn't support the risk-taking of doing that, then you cannot do that. I don't advise you to do that, yeah? So you need to understand that these are very important factors when you think about adopting big data analytics and project management. So now, understanding this and knowing all we talked about, how do we apply big data analytics and project management? Let's assume that 3 dimensions are established. We are very mature. We are very happy. We have the most talented people in big data analytics. We are training our employees in the big data analytics. Now, how do we apply that in project management? Of course, I'll go back to the organizational project management one by one. Portfolio management. So in portfolio management, one very important factor or area that you really can leverage big data analytics is knowledge management. We all understand that there are a lot of lessons, history from our projects. Get started somewhere. Do we really get back to it? Do we really go back to it? PMO. We keep in our standard lessons learned at the end of the project. You're not going to accept closure unless the project manager ensures that lessons are documented. But do we really use it? Honestly, most of the time we don't. But if we establish a proper big data analytics, then we don't need to bother about this. The machine will do it for me, right? So you as a portfolio manager would simply go to your program, to the software. You will ask the software, based on the history, based on the lessons already there, to forecast for you, right? To evaluate this project. Am I doing the right project now? Considering all the input, the history, your financial history, the talents you have, vision of the organization. And if you don't have a proper knowledge management for that within your portfolio management, then it would be really difficult. And when I talk about knowledge management, of course, I talk about the tacit and explicit knowledge. So that's very important. We talk about organizational knowledge and we talk about employees' knowledge. Project selection and evaluation, we talked about resource management. A very important area, and this would work throughout all the organizational project management. Resource management, if I enter all the employees I have, right, their skills, their talent, and any other resources I have, so there are different analytical tools that could generate some insights for you, that could give you some trends. For instance, you'll tell, let's say, your program that I'm going to run this project. Okay, so check for me if I have the right capabilities or I have the right team for that. Leave it to that program. You could be surprised with what that would tell you. So that's one area you could look into. And then monitoring and balancing, of course. The more feedback you get, the more insights you get about the status of different projects and portfolio, the more information or insight that you have to be able to make decisions. And remember, we talked here about decision-making. So here comes a decision-making. At the different stages of portfolio management, we need to make decisions. Imagine the portfolio manager is an intuitive type. It would be really difficult. to do it based on big data analytics. So at least here, if that's the case, you'd understand that let's not waste time in big data analytics. Let's use another approach. PMO, very rich area for big data analytics. Almost in every aspect, you can apply big data analytics. And America already talked about there are a type of PMO that's more dedicated for analytics kind of PMO. But then no, as he said, so you apply it when you need it. So and one most important thing, or I would say area in PMO is culture or team building. And this also would apply in project management. So use big data analytics as a tool to start building the data-driven culture, and then spread this to different projects. By doing this, we all understand the impact of technology, right? So when technology came, it changed the way we relate to each other, it changed the way we work with each other. So use now this IT capability to start building the required culture and to start building the required skills within your team members. Reporting and monitoring, we talked about project cost, of course, based on the information, based on the early detection that could come to you from the different analytics tool you have, you could save a lot of money and time. Resource management and knowledge management, we also talked about. So PMO, there are different directions how to apply big data analytics in a PMO, or there are a different direction of building a PMO within the context of big data analytics. So you could establish a fully new PMO, and you call it transformation office, only for big data analytics project. Or you could have one mega project called big data analytics transformation. And that's simply where you start building the capability of big data analytics. And here, you as a project manager or as a PMO need to understand the different dimensions. So this becomes your success factor. If you're a project manager working in establishing a big data analytics project with IT department, with the strategy department, they need to make sure the three components are really well established. Because at the end, you don't want to be told that you failed us. What happens? They come to the IT department, they tell the IT that you didn't know what you were doing. We're not getting the benefits, right? But then from the very beginning, if you highlighted that, this is not an IT anymore. It's not a technology, it's a capability. And then moving forward with the execution and delivery, of course, everything we said would apply here. Planning really, really will be strengthened. Why? Because you have a lot of data now. How do we plan? Risk management, issues management. Remember all the Excel sheets you use? Remember even if you have software, you still need to enter all the information, and you need to keep managing it. You need to keep updating it. Imagine taking that off your shoulder. Because now the data is there, let the machine process and analyze and give me the information I need. Again, it's very important, you as a project manager or a PMO manager, culture. You understand now this is very, very, very important, key success factor in big data projects. So make sure that there is one full track that works in changing culture. Carly Fiorina said, the goal is to turn data into information and information into insight. So unless this data that you collected turned into information and insight, again, it's useless, right? And here I need you to understand one very important aspect. A data scientist will not be able to add a business value. A data scientist will give you different trends, will give you different, I would say, forecasting. But then this data scientist cannot take that in the context of your business unless that person really has a good experience on the business line. So that's where the data scientist has to meet with the business people, with the IT people, all together. They all need to work together to be able to, for instance, come up with an added value, like a new service. Data scientists will not be able. Data scientists could tell you, I see certain trend happening. I see, let's say, an increase in adoption in certain services, but then he doesn't know how to interpret that. So to turn the data and information into insight, you need to make sure that you have a proper knowledge management and you have all the stakeholders getting together to reach out to the really needed business value. Now, moving forward from here, as an advice, and I'll close with this. How do we do it? So number one, do not think of big data analytics as an IT or as a technology, not anymore. Think of big data analytics as an organizational capability. And then once you have that clearly defined, then make sure that you establish the 3 dimensions of big data analytics. If you go with 1 or 2, believe me, it's not gonna work. And I think I gave you some information here where it shows you why it's not going to work. And then also consider all other required organizational capabilities that need to be built with the well-established big data analytics in order to be able to move forward and really generate the business value. Decision-making, how mature it is in my organization. Organizational learning or knowledge management, how mature it is. Are we really ready to adopt the concept of big data analytics? Are we ready to adopt big data analytics in our PMO? Do we have other function well-established? That also to think about. And then choose where you want to apply big data. Don't do a big bang. Choose where you want to apply it, because this is a learning process. This is something you need to learn. We talked about culture, we talked about values, and these are very specific to each organization. Cultures varies from one place to another. You need to understand your own culture and how fast or slow it will take them to be able to change. So that's very important factors. So that's why phase it out. So let's say that today you want to start with a PMO. So we'll have a proper plan, we'll have proper project, the right talent to build big data analytics capability within PMO. 2 years later, I'll push it down to projects or maybe up to the portfolio management. Think about it according to the all factors we talked about. And by this, I end my presentation. Thank you very much. These are my contact details if you like any further information.
Dr. Laila Faridoon, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
May I ask you, it was data, information, and insights.
Yes.
How fast we should travel, because data could be outdated, right?
Yeah, so that's why they talk now about immediate processing, real-time processing. So act fast, don't wait. And what happens now, and especially in government, they accumulate huge amount of data that they forget where they archive them, they forget where they stored them. And when big data projects comes, the first thing you need to do is to start doing data cleansing. And that by itself is very expensive. Yeah, so the first step is very important. So once you do that, that takes a long time. So collecting data is easy. And a second, we collect data. Your smartphone generates a huge amount of data, yeah? But then cleaning that data is the most challenging thing here. So the faster you are in this, the most, I would say, you have proper standards in collecting and storing data, the easier it gets when you start processing them.
Speed of light.
Yep.
Okay, I saw raised hand. Please put someone on the microphone. We would like to hear your question.
Now, if we talk about application, for organizations that only engage in that road to have a data-driven decision-making and project management, what part of organization is best positioned to start with that? So where do you think organizations should start? Is it portfolio management, IT, or individual projects? Where do you think this effort has to start?
It's not where to start, it's whom to start with. So again, what's the decision-making style in this organization? Who has the power to make a decision? What's the cognitive style of that person who makes this decision? Start from there. That's what I would say.
So
it's more human, I would say, capability than organizational at the very beginning. Once you start with that, then you move to the organizational capability. And in organizational capability, back to the organization itself, you can decide based on different factors.
So essentially you go to the closest executive who needs data-driven decision-making, and he feels that he is mature enough to start with that and start from that point.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thanks.
More questions? Still, we've got 1 minute. Yeah, here.
Thank you, Laila. Quick question in terms of the challenges you've seen in your previous life and your experience. How, if you look back now learning from all the experiences you've done, how can you advise yourself back in your previous role to react more?
I would say be specific about what kind of data you collect. Understand what you need from the data. So before even starting, why do you need big data analytics? So as I said, we store a lot of data. So understand what kind of data you have. Eventually, when you would need to use it, at least you know part of it there. Then you'll take care of the processing and the analytic part of it. Yeah? So define your data stream, where they are coming from, how fast they're coming from, who are the generator, what kind of data, because there are different kinds of data. We have structured data, unstructured, and semi-structured data. So how do you deal with each type of data? Each one would have different processing scenario.
So ladies and gentlemen, let's share a round of applause to Dr. Laila Faridoon. Thank you so much for being with us today.